Look, it's time to fix the myth about dyslexia. 1 in 5 kids in this country struggle with reading, writing, and spelling. These are the kids that get bullied and whose parents are confused of why this is happening. That's why Leah David is here today, and that's why she started CODE, the Committee on Dyslexia Education. Welcome, Leah.
Thank you, Clark.
Great to have you here. We have
Thank
gotten
you.
so many questions that people have been reaching out and they want to know about dyslexia. And let's begin. What is dyslexia?
Oh, that's a big question, Clark. Dyslexia is really a glitch in the language loop in the brain. You know, everything in our world takes place in the brain. And when a child shows signs of dyslexia, it's when he's having trouble with reading, writing, and spelling, even though there's high intelligence, he had the proper education, but something's not right. Something's just preventing him from having an automatic reaction to it, and it's a very frustrating situation for most of our kids. And the truth is that people get confused because they think that dyslexia means seeing and reading backwards. And that's the great myth. It's not true.
At what age, if there is such a thing as, at what age should a person start seeing that there's something not right, if you will?
Okay, so let's understand this, that dyslexia is familial. That means it runs in families. That means if your father was dyslexic, your grandfather was dyslexic, there's a good chance that you would have signs of dyslexia. Just like when a kid is born and they say, oh, he'll need glasses, the whole family needs glasses. So we have some guidance for early childhood. And a lot of the things in early childhood, of course, kids outgrow. You know, they say Piscetti instead of spaghetti, and they can't necessarily count and do things, but most of that gets outgrown. But when a child doesn't outgrow that, and you know that your 7-year-old had issues, or your 15-year-old had issues, there are things to look for. When it really comes to pass is when a child starts pre-1A or first grade, when they really start the letter sound relationship, and the child is not getting it. So then you have to look and say, why is that happening? This is a bright, creative child. What's preventing him from absorbing the material and really learning how to put it together to read?
What was this dyslexia diagnosed?
Another hard question.
Ah.
Up until recently, the Department of Education didn't diagnose dyslexia as a separate entity, and that was a problem. Just recently, Joanne Simon in New York City has helped put a bill together in New York State where when a child gets an IEP, then you go to the Board of Education and they say, what's wrong with my child? He's not learning, she's not learning. They do a diagnosis. That piece of paper has to have what's wrong. And in 15 years, I've never seen the word dyslexia. They used other words. So if you use other words, you can't really fix it. So it's been a real process of how to use it, because now we really want people to say if it's dyslexia, there is a specific way to fix it.
So they knew, everyone knew it was an issue, but it was not diagnosed.
They called it a reading difficulty, they called it a language issue, they called it everything but. And my philosophy's been, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. You know, it's a duck. You can't hide it. You know, you don't want to make it something that it's not, because it's very fixable. That's the point.
1 in 5 kids in this country struggle with reading, writing, and spelling. Tell us a little bit about that.
Wow. So you don't have to be a total non-reader, a total non-speller, a total non. You know, just by the fact of having intelligence, you can do something. You really do it. You don't become a non-reader. There are some that go to non-reader, because you need to understand that dyslexia goes from mild to severe. So mildly, it can have certain symptoms. Severe can be really off the charts, where you think there's something more severe. So what happens is kids start to learn, and they're not up to grade level. I always like to say, and this is how I explain it to children, that there's a language loop in the brain, and the information goes in, and you know how we learn, Clark, right? We learn through our 5 senses. We hear it, we see it, we experience, we touch it, this is the world. We have brains, God gave us brains to use, and we're going to do this. And the information goes in, and it's supposed to go to door number 1. And with a dyslexic child, it goes to door number 2 and plays hide and seek. And then the child goes in to try to find the information. What does K say? And the child goes and has a bewildered look, and the information's not there. And the teacher would say, well, didn't you study? And the kid did study. He knows it's there, but it's gone. So that becomes a repetitive pattern for the child. And those 1 in 5 kids don't succeed the way they should be, and it's not working properly. So that's how the failure starts to come in, because they know they did all their work, and it's just not happening for them. So 1 in 5 is really the number. But when a teacher teaches to a classroom, that's a broadcast experience. She's teaching, she has a lesson plan, it's not broken down for each child. Now, there are definitely teachers who break it down for individual children, but it takes them time to figure out. The obvious thing is, Joey's not trying hard enough. He's not studying hard enough. He didn't go over the material. He didn't, look closer, do it again. And this little kid really doesn't get it. But nobody's helping Joey's mommy understand that there's a reason. Nobody said to Joey's mommy, did anybody else have trouble in school? And Joey's mommy said, yeah, me. So that's how it kind of manifests itself. And that's why we need to change all that. And that's why we have to really create this awareness campaign of what dyslexia really is, how it really manifests, how you really fix it, and what we really need to do about it so that we can get it done, because it's 2018 and we still haven't done it.
Really?
There is no campaign for dyslexia. It just doesn't exist.
It's incredible. So the parents should be looking for something in particular?
Yeah. If your child goes to school and they're coming home and you see they're struggling to memorize the sounds, and they're struggling to memorize putting the sounds together, the P, the A, and the T, and every time they see an A, and they say A instead of A, and they're struggling, you have to say, this is more than just my kid not trying hard enough. And what we're trying to do here is get it down to the ground level. The idea conceptually of code is to be able to educate pediatricians. Because usually when a child is having trouble, and they're having trouble in school, what happens? They don't want to go to school, their belly hurts, they start acting out a little bit. Different things happen within the family, and the mother doesn't necessarily know what to do, and the first thing she'll do is she'll say, well, let me check with the doctor. And we're hoping that when the mother goes to the doctor and says, Joey's not sleeping well, he's not eating well, we want the doctor to say, how's he doing in school? How's his reading? And she'll say, funny you should say that. The teacher says he's not paying attention, he's daydreaming. And the doctor would say, well, here's a brochure. Is anybody else have trouble like this? And she'd say, well, yeah, I was a bad student, or I had trouble. And then the pediatrician would say, well, how about a screening for dyslexia? And now we know what to do. Because if you can help one child early, and it's familial, you save generations. And that's what we've done for the past 15 years in our organization.
Absolutely. Look, I also see in the opening we spoke about that there is a correlation between bullying and dyslexia. Tell us about that.
It's interesting. Steven Spielberg did a quote. He's dyslexic, and Steven Spielberg did a quote on one of these TED Talks. And he said the second most horrible day in his life is when he got called on in 2nd grade to read out loud. He wanted to run away. And I think it was Henry Winkler who said that his mother kept punishing him upstairs because he didn't have the right answers. And that's family. And I don't know any 7-year-old who gets called on to read in school and stutters or makes a mistake, and all the kids start to laugh at him. It's painful. Painful. The kid wants to just crawl into a hole, and he's not going to try again. He's just not going to try. So you've lost him. There's no one there supporting his wants or needs or helping him to overcome what's a easy thing to fix.
And when you say easy?
Easy is the wrong word. There's a specific methodology that works with children with dyslexia. Research has shown that a multisensory approach is the way to work with a dyslexic child. And the most impressive and the original multisensory approach was developed by Dr. Samuel Orton. The Orton-Gillingham approach was worked in the 1920s. Dr. Samuel Orton and Anna Gillingham. Dr. Orton was a neurologist, and he worked in Iowa. And his job in Iowa, he got a grant from the Rockefeller Institute, and this is the 1920s, he got money to ride around in a truck in farms and go to all the farms and find out, got any mental illness, got any troubles, anybody depressed, anybody got any problems here? And he would walk in and parents would say, I have a mentally retarded son. And he'd say, what's wrong with your child? And the mother would say, he can't read. And Sam would meet the child and say, there's nothing wrong with this child. Why shouldn't he be reading? And that started his whole philosophy, because it started much earlier in the 1700s in London, Germany. They called it word blindness, and they understood, but they didn't understand. They didn't have the technology. Today you can actually see a PET scan of the brain learning in the language loop.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it's very interesting. You can see the PET scan, and you can see the learning, and you can see with multisensory Orton-Gillingham approach, which is a multisensory approach learning with at least 3 of the senses. The words go in and you create the channels, you change the brain. You put it in like crazy glue, so it's in the right cubby. And Samuel Orton did his work with Anna Gillingham. So our whole program is based on authentic Orton-Gillingham instruction. So when I say it's easy, it means that if you get the right remediator and you stick with it, you see results and it works. The problem is in this country, there aren't enough where you don't know who to look for, and just taking a course or a workshop is not enough. So part of the code's goal is to get more training, to build a network of professionals, to really guide, not only guide the parents where to go to get the right training, but to pay for it. Part of what we're hoping to do is raise the money, because it's expensive.
I could imagine.
I'd be kidding you if it's not.
Oh, I could imagine. But if I think it's a great idea that you train a group to know what they're looking for.
We have to train them now to know what they're looking for, so that we cannot waste any more time. The earlier you recognize what it is and get the proper intervention, you save years. The statistics are actually that 50% of the inmates of Rikers Island are dyslexic.
Wow.
That comes from the Borough President's Office of Brooklyn. Those are real numbers, You know how it is. You fail at school. You don't have very good self-esteem. You walk out of school and the guy in the corner says, hey, come talk to me. What's going on? They don't understand me at school. They don't know what's going on. He goes, well, I know what's going on. Come hang with me. And that's not really where it should be. We really have to make some change in this country, and it takes professionals, and that's what I really feel the code stands on. That's like our foundation. We work with professionals. We have for the last 15 years, and a lot of our people are part of organizations for 45 years. We bring a lot of talent and a lot of professional people, and we're trying to bring all the other groups together. We want to bring everybody who deals with dyslexia under one umbrella to work together as a team, and that's a hard thing to do.
Leah, it sounds like there's a lot of issues that feed off of dyslexia, right? You talk about the bullying,
Yes.
Gang violence. We're
Yes.
talking about Rikers
Yes.
Island.
Yes.
I think it's an issue that has been overlooked.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Because they're blaming everybody else. They're saying, why is there so much gang activity? And,
Yes.
but there's a lot of stuff that rides on the reason why.
Well, self-esteem and failure is a really hard thing to overcome. We've got to be responsible.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to come right back. We want to know more about CODE, the Committee on Dyslexia Education.
Dyslexia. Right.
Dyslexia Education with our new friend, Leah. Don't go away on the other side of the break. Now we're back to the Advocates Corner with your host, Clark Pena. We've been talking with the Executive Director of CODE, the Committee on Dyslexia Education, Leah David. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Now let's get to the nitty-gritty. Tell us about CODE.
Okay. So CODE is a new grassroots organization that has grown out of an original organization that I started 14 years ago called Or Halima, the Light of Learning. That started because my 7-year-old daughter wasn't learning to read.
7.
She was 7 then. Now she's 23 and a teacher herself.
God bless.
And my 7-year-old daughter wasn't learning to read, and I didn't know what to do. I was a mother that went to the school and said, why is she not reading? And they said, oh, she'll get it. I said, this kid's not reading, and my background was in education. I had to have a degree in education, and I have experience, and I was teaching at one point, going to marketing in other areas of my life. I've had a few careers. And the truth is that she wasn't learning to read, and I didn't know what to do. And I had tutors, and I had resource room, and it wasn't helping, and I went for evaluations, and it wasn't helping. And this was a child at the age of 7 who was at risk. She didn't want to go to school. She wanted me to drive her. I became the tea mommy. Come, sweetie, I'll make you a cup of tea, we'll go to school. And I did that every day. And I was lucky enough at that point to be a stay-at-home mommy, which was a gift.
Very important, yeah.
And she started first grade, and she wasn't getting it. And I finally did a private evaluation, and it came back with a list this long of things she needed. She had soft signs of dyslexia, soft signs of dyscalculia, which is the math. She needed a multisensory approach, front seating, and the list was like, this long, and I didn't know what to do. I thought I would homeschool her, and then it came about that someone suggested some programs, and it came back, when I researched the programs and I Googled it, it came back Multisensory Orton Gillingham, and I contacted the Academy of Educators and Practitioners, which is a certifying body for training. It's like the American Medical Association. They certify quality teachers and tutors, and she started her tutoring with Balin and Mann on December 6th of 2003, and it was good. And then a week later I said, where am I going to send this girl to school? How am I going to educate my child? What am I going to do? She can't sit for all these hours in a classroom and not get it. And I wanted to go back to work in marketing. It was time. I was home for 7 years. And I said, I know, I'll open up a school for girls with dyslexia. And I did.
Wow.
So I opened up a school, and when I went and told Marcia that I'm opening a school for girls with dyslexia, she said, yeah, you and every mother. I said, no, I'm really doing this. And I opened up the school. We started with 3 children. We had the school for 14 years. We mainstream back. That means educated and mainstream children back with all their tools. That's the concept. Take kids into a special program, give them all their foundation skills, teach them to read, write, and spell, give them all the letters, the sounds, the spelling rules, get them ready to go, and know they have dyslexia, because you see, dyslexia is not cured. You don't cure it. It's here forever, but you learn how to remediate it and overcome it, and then just know when it comes up again. It's kind of like, it's kind of like when you have to do things in different phases in your life. You need to know, I need a little help here. Okay. So I opened up the school. And then I got calls for all these boys. It was a girls' school, and all the boys, so we opened up an after-school tutoring center. And then I said, wait a minute, we don't have enough teachers, and I opened up a teacher training center that was granted for 9 years. And this went on for 14 years.
Wow.
14 years with the top professionals in the business, and it was successful.
You've been saving lives for 14 years.
Yes, I've been saving lives and families.
And families, right.
Because it's not just, it's not that life, it's the generation after generation after generation. My daughter herself now comes home and tells me, Mommy, this one's got a little dyslexia. I see it happening now. I spoke to the mother. We can see it, and you can see the symptoms. If they're obvious, once you know what they are, you can go into classroom and go, you, come work over here in a multisensory approach. So we started the school, we started the center, we worked on all of this, and it was in a small area. It was a parochial environment that was small. And I kept feeling that it had to be big picture. The first thing I thought of when I opened up the corporation 14 years ago was, doesn't every child deserve to read the back of a cereal box? That's what I want. I want post alphabets to put that on the back of a cereal box, the milk people. The back of a cereal box is not meant for a dyslexic child. It's not phonetic. See, the key for a dyslexic child is phonetic. They have to be able to sound out the words and understand what each letter means. The typical thing in school, when you went to school, how'd you get a spelling test? They give you 10 words, study them. Do they have any meaning? Do they have any? You studied and then forgot. So we opened up the school, we opened up the learning center, and it was where it was supposed to be for that time, and then it was time to get bigger. It was time to broaden our scope. It was time to reach out to the public. It was time to really fix dyslexia. I used to say how I had the cure for cancer, but I didn't have the money to turn on the lights, to do the kind of work that we want to do with code. We want to create a real marketing campaign in the style of Got Milk. There's no campaign for dyslexia. You don't see it on buses, you don't see it on subways, you don't see it in print ads, you don't have sponsorship, there's no major events. There's plenty of grassroots stuff, but nothing big picture. We want to be the big picture people
Leah,
to do this.
Why? I don't.
Why do I want to do this?
No.
Why isn't it happening?
Why isn't there any campaign?
I guess because
It's so
they were waiting for Leah David, I guess. I
No.
guess they were waiting for Leah David.
You're
I said,
here.
God chose, now it's time. I guess I can't answer that. Like, as if the eyes were closed and now let's open them up. So our first campaign, by the way, is what we want to do is called What's This? Could it be dyslexia? What's this?
Right.
What's this? Who's got this? I got this. What's this? Could it be dyslexia? And then understand what it is, what the symptoms are. Don't run away from it. Let's fix it. And we don't want to just make the awareness clock. We want to raise $32 million. So if you walk in with your child, we can screen your child and we can set up real tutoring with our network. We don't want to be the tutors. We're going to get a network of people who we vet as professional. And then we want to be able to pay for up to 2 years worth of tutoring pending parent participation. Because you know as well as I do, free is free, it doesn't work.
Right.
So if the parent can afford $20 a week, that's your commitment. You may have to give a little time back to code, but your kid will read. They will read, they will be successful, and maybe they'll be like Dr. Epstein. You know what Dr. Epstein was? Dr. Epstein was a man many years ago who was dyslexic his whole life, and he couldn't get into college, and he finally got into college. Fred Epstein, Google him. He wanted to go to medical school and they wouldn't let him because he didn't have the grades. I have dyscalculia, it runs in my family, my whole family's got it. And Fred finally, they got him into college, and Fred Epstein developed the brain surgery technique to operate on kids' brains to fix tumors.
Wow.
Brilliant, brilliant man. So the idea behind code is to be able to not only create the awareness and the marketing and the idea of what dyslexia is, but to actually raise enough funds to say, okay, you get screened, you have the signs, you can have 2 years, this is your remediator, these are the responsibilities, this is how it's going to work, we're going to make sure it's working, and we're going to take you to this level and fix it. That's
Just
what we
like
want to
someone
do.
believed in Dr. Epstein.
Yeah.
You have to believe, you have to address the issue.
You have to address the issue, you have to get the people who are powerful in this country to back you up. There are plenty of dyslexics who need to say, I want to help leave a legacy and change this country. It's 2018. Our country in reading is number 23 in the world. China is number 1. The statistics are staggering of what's really happening here in this country.
Very embarrassing.
It's the truth.
A country like ours, huh?
It's the truth.
Where do you see code moving forward here?
I'd like to see the proper board and the proper people with the power, because it'll take power and money, because it has to, because it can't happen without that. Whether it's through government, private, a combination. I see the commitment there to be able to really reach out and start to educate the right people in this country, whether it's the teacher, the doctor, the professional, the parent. Start small and grow out big and work with the grassroots organizations that exist now and use an overall umbrella called What's This? Could it be dyslexia? And have everyone know where to come and ask questions and become educated in a real user-friendly way. See, the key is user-friendly, because if people think it's seeing backwards, we have to break that myth. It's a lie. Parents come to my office and say, my child doesn't have dyslexia, they just can't read. Well, hello. I had a girl come to my office last week for a screening. She's 15 years old. She came when she was 9. And the parent disappeared and she came back and I said, why are you here? She said, I want to be able to spell. I said, why is that? She said, because I have stories in my head that I want to write and I can't write them because I can't spell them. I said, why? She said, because I use Google, but my stories take place in the time of King Arthur. I have a character who lives in foster care and I can't get the old English terminology, so I can't write my stories. What was I supposed to tell her? She needs tutoring, she needs money. Who's going to pay for that? Even if you're comfortable, if I tell you it's going to cost you $200 a week, $300 a week, that's another whole job. Where are you going to get that money from? How are we going to do this? The insurance doesn't cover it. I tried that. I did that route. I sat with the insurance companies. They wanted me to go to Albany, the job. Here, go fix the insurance companies out. So we've got to band together, put the money together, the team together, and follow the plan to really make a difference and leave a legacy and help our children.
And I'm listening to, and I'm over here thinking about that child. What is that child feeling? Could you imagine? Well, I can't, and I don't understand what's going on with me. What is that child feeling?
I can only share that I've screened about 1,500 children, and they walk in the same. They walk in, sit by my desk, and they walk in, and I say, "You hate school, right?" And I say, "You really feel dumb, right? You hate when the teacher calls on you?" And they usually tear up at that point. And I say, "I really understand," and then I try to explain to them what it is. And then I explain, and what I do is I do this screening, and I have the kid do a maze, pretty complicated maze, and I say, "Can you get the spider from here to here?" And they do it really fast, and I leave it over here, and then I start going through the letters and the sounds, and little Joey can't do the vowels. Now, if you can't do vowels, you can't read. And the A is and I say to Joey, "Joey, don't you think it's strange that you're so smart you can do the maze like this? And you can't do this? Does that make sense to you?" And all of a sudden, Clark, you see a light go off in the kid's head. And it's like, wait a minute. You're right, tell me more. And then I go and I educate them and I explain, it's not you, I draw the language loop, the letters play hide and seek. I said, "Let me ask you a question. Do you raise your hand and say to the teacher, 'Excuse me, could you repeat that again?'" And the child says, "No." Well, if you don't get it the first time, how could you not ask it again? So there's a lot of education to be done and a lot of sensitivity training. That's the word, sensitivity training for parents, for educators. Let's hear the kids. Go into a classroom and say honestly, how many of you guys are having trouble with the letters, the sounds, and the readings? Nobody cares. We're not looking. Raise your hand. You'll be shocked. Shocked.
Leah, in the final minutes that we have, at your camera, address the parents, address our country. What can we do? What do we have to do to help on this issue?
I need your help. And more than that, we need your money. It's unfortunate that it's the land of the free and the home of the brave. And we have a line that we want to use. We want people to give a buck and care about the kids. We want the people who struggle to call. If you were a child in school who couldn't read and you're successful now, we want you to get together and say, we want to help the code. We want to help the code. We want to help the children. We want to call and we want to get involved. And we want to let you know that we're out here to help us put this grassroots organization to make a change in the world, kind of like the Wright brothers. They laughed at the Wright brothers. They said they couldn't fly. Leah David and the Code can change this world, and all children will read.
Leah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Code. All the information is right at the bottom of our screen. When we think about bullying, when we think about criminal enterprise, I think we have the solution here. It comes in the body of code. Our friend, Leah David, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for inviting us. We hope this is the beginning of something really important.
Absolutely, we're going to hold you to it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, my friends. This is Clark Pena for the Advocates Corner. Always reminding you, let's take care of yourself. More importantly, let's take care of each other. Until next time.